Hey, how are you tonight? I'm Stephen Tocher, and I'm starting this live stream on why pride and greed are addictions. I'm going to just quickly start off with a joke here. I'm going to try something a little new tonight, new format. Try and actually keep it formatted in general so that if anyone logs in, they kind of know what they're going to get. So here's a little joke for you. Did you know that Jesus is divine and we are the branches? I'll just leave that right there for you. Hopefully that was, some nice cheesy dad joke Christian humor. All right, so tonight we're going to be praying for a bunch of different things. I think prayer time is always a good thing to start with. Fentanyl is a big problem that's going on in the world right now, and it's so much more powerful and more addictive than most other drugs that we know in the world and on the scene in the drug world right now. So obviously praying for that. America's political landscape at the moment is pretty intense. Charlie Kirk's family. I didn't always agree with everything Charlie Kirk said, but someone getting killed for their beliefs and how they spoke is pretty terrible. And praying for his wife and his kiddos right now. For the leaders of the world and all the things that are going on, all the different decisions they have to make, whether it's with nuclear warheads or AI or the financials of their world. It's a heavy. They say it's a heavy head. Sorry, I can't remember exactly how they say it, but I think it's a heavy shoulders wears the crown, or a heavy head wears the crown. Uh, we have the war in Sudan that's been raging on for it seems like decades now. Israel and Palestine, all of the war and fear mongering that's going on with those two wars at the moment. Russia and parts of Europe, the Ukraine in particular, and all the problems that are constantly happening there. Families who've been abused. I keep having conversations about people who've been had to endure like COVID for long stretches of time with their abusers. Horrible time in people's lives. On our children's minds, there's a lot of children out there who are not getting necessary parenting. The parents are having to work to pay bills, or there's single parent homes. There's a lot of things going on right now. So, praying for our children's minds, parents and their minds to protect them as well, and the constant war and fight that they're under, as well as the persecution in Nigeria that continues to rage on. We tend to really get caught up with what's going on in the quote unquote world, right? The Western world or whatever it might be. But in reality, it's pretty intense with, the persecution that's going on in Nigeria and other places around the world. So if you have any prayer requests tonight, please let me know in the chat. I'd like to just start off the time with prayer. For those of you who weren't here, I'm starting off with a joke, and no one was really here to start off. So, did you know that Jesus is divine? And we are the branches. Hopefully, some dad humor there. I will just leave that joke right there for you. So, again, we're praying for fentanyl users, the political landscape, Charlie Kirk's family. Again, I didn't always agree with everything he said, but his wife and kids going through a tragedy there. There were leaders around the world, the war in Sudan, Palestine and Israel, Russia and parts of Europe, families that are being abused right now. There's the rise of just abuse against children in general as well. Parents' minds to protect them, and the persecution in Nigeria. So if anyone else has any prayer requests, please fire them in the chat. If not, I'm just going to quickly pray for these things right now, just to get us off started tonight before we talk about pride and greed and how they are addictions. All right, so please message in the chat or pray along with me if you'd like. Lord Jesus, I just want to thank you for this time. For anyone who tunes in, I just pray that you'd be able to speak through me and speak through the chat. I pray in the future to be able to get a phone line, be able to chat with different people with different questions and things that they have. I pray for the fentanyl use right now, how it's destroying people's lives. Lord, give us the wisdom and an antidote to how to help people, people especially who've been trapped in this world, who have no clue, no idea how to get out. Lord, I pray for the political landscape around the world. It's very tension based. There's a lot of issues going on, whether it's with the consumption of different fuels, whether it's food, whether it's war, or whether it's famine, or just like the geopoliticals of where a country's at, or the potentials of civil war. Lord, just please speak to those leaders and send people, even in this chat who may be in the ears of these political leaders. I pray for Charlie Kirk's family, his wife and kiddos right now. Lord, you know all of our hearts and the sin that we have and the problems we have. And Lord, you also tell us to take care of the widow and the orphan children, Lord. And I just pray for his family to have support there, and all the other families in war torn places, or people in Nigeria who are being persecuted for their faith. I just pray that you would bless these people, help them, keep them, and share with us a way that we can be able to connect with them, especially people we've never seen or heard from before. Like, again, those dozens and dozens of people who are being killed in Nigeria for their faith. I just want to pray for those hot spots of war around the world, like Palestine and Israel, for the war that's going on in Sudan, which seems like decades, and for the Ukraine-Russia war and the conflict with Europe, and just the different problems and issues that we're facing around the world at the moment. Lord, just I pray for the minds of the children and just families in general. I pray that you just protect them, help them, and keep them. Thank you so much. Just go into the chat here. I don't have anyone who has any prayer requests. Again, if you have prayer requests or issues that you'd like to talk about throughout the night, please drop them in the chat, and I'd love to chat with you more. Lord, I just thank you for all these things, and I pray that we'd have a great time talking about pride and greed and how they are addictions in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so chat, nothing's on the chat. That's okay. If you have questions about fitness, faith, hey, what's up, Kala? How you doing, brother? Or actually, I shouldn't. I don't know, Kala. These names, sorry. How are you, Kala? Nice to meet you. I'm just used to having guys on the chat, so my apologies. It was muscle memory there. But Kala, hello. Nice. Thank you for saying hi. If you have a prayer request or thought, please let me know. So again, our topic for tonight is, what does pride and greed have to do with addiction? Now, over the past 20 years, I've helped hundreds of people with their life problems. Pride and greed is usually at the root of these problems. Good, it's okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kala, for your graciousness. Now, I asked the question of pride and greed because it seems that they not only are at the root of most people's problems, but they are something that's hard to identify or for people to actually deal with in their lives. And a question to you in the chat, or in the future in the comment section, do you have an issue with pride or greed, or how do you see that pride and greed bothering our world and the life that you live in right now? I think from my perspective, and again, if Chad has anything to say, please let me know. I think pride and greed is again at the root of everything. So, for instance, pride is dethroning God, while greed is to take from others. And so the 10 commandments are broken down into these into these two main sins. So if we were to go to Exodus 20 verses 1 through 17, you would see that. Now, it's one thing about the phone chat. I want to eventually build so that I can have the scriptures open with everyone at the same time. But for now, I'm running off my phone and I have a screen in the background. And so we're just at the 10 Commandments, the time in Exodus chapter 20 where it was given. Eddie, how you doing? Nice to say. Thank you for saying hi. You're wonderful, and I hope you always will be able to. Even don't let anyone take you down. Bye. Hey, Kala, thank you so much for the kind words. I appreciate that. That's very, very sweet of you. Please come by on Fridays whenever you'd like on the chat here. And we're talking a lot of times about addiction or problems that you're dealing with, and answering any questions that you may have. So as we go back to the idea of the 10 Commandments, the first 10 Commandments have to do with God and keeping God's Sabbath, keeping God first and foremost in our lives, not having any images against God, and to not have any other gods beside God. And these four are in essence in the war against pride. And where do we put our trust in? How do we live our lives? What do we do? How are we walking with God? Now, the next six laws are based off of being against other people, fighting greed. So you have, for instance, not murdering, so not taking someone's life, not committing adultery, taking someone's wife, not stealing, literally stealing, giving false testimony about someone's neighbor. You're greedy, you're trying to dominate the conversation, dominate everything around you, and coveting your neighbor's house, their wife, any of their servants. Coveting in general is greed. So the second point that comes to mind is that then Jesus actually shares the opposite of what greed and pride are. I'm just going to go back to the chat here. Do you live in Malaysia? I do not. Sorry, I didn't get back to you on that. I should have got back to you a little faster. No, I live in Toronto, Canada, and so it's interesting. You think I'm from Malaysia? Maybe it's the T-shirt. I get compliments sometimes on it, and I guess maybe I got the camo going on as well. So I am from Toronto, Canada. Okay. The second point that I find very interesting is that Jesus shares the opposite of greed and pride in the summary of the law. So if we were to go to Matthew 22:34-40, all right, let me jump back here. Eddie, you live in Malaysia. Now, I love Malay food. My mentor is from Singapore, so he tells me wonderful, wonderful things about Malaysia, the beauty of the country. So thank you for joining me from Malaysia. And that's, I guess, the cool thing about doing something on a Friday night in North America is that I'm getting the Eastern flex on the other side of the world. And, if it can help you or help you to stay connected on a Saturday morning or gets your day started, I'm very, very thankful to be here with you. All right. Again, just chat it up whenever you feel like it. Thanks for all them hearts. Appreciate it. Okay. So the opposite points that Jesus shares with us on greed and pride is in the summary of the law. When Jesus is listening to the Sadducees and the Pharisees, and they got together, and one of them, an expert of the law, tested him with a question and said, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in law?" Jesus replied, "Love you, the Lord your God, with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment." So immediately that crushes pride. You're loving God. You're spending that time to love. Love will always diminish pride. And the second is to love your neighbor as yourself. And what's interesting about the idea of loving your neighbor as yourself is I think a lot of people usually just love one or the other. Going to love, yourself or love your neighbor and not have that as a kind of a duality working together. Because if you don't truly love yourself properly, it's very hard to truly love your neighbor. It probably will be a false love or like a love done out of just purely action. All of the law and the prophets hang on these two commands. So again, to fight greed and pride, we need to have that opposite, which is to love God and love your neighbor as yourself. I did like and subscribe. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's fantastic news. Thank you. And again, every Friday for myself at around 10 o'clock at night, or because that's coming from Toronto, or I guess for yourself, maybe it's like 10 or 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning in Malaysia. Please feel free on Saturdays to join in as well. How many subscribers do you have? I think maybe 11 or 1,200 subscribers, but I'm what you call an OG. I've been on YouTube for, I think, 16 years now. So I did 250 to 300 videos where I showed people how I lost so I was about 140 kgs and I went down to about 85 kgs. So I lost 55 kgs. So I spent the first 5 years of YouTube just trying to help people with healthy, slow, simple, cheap weight loss, and just giving them tips and tricks on just doing things very simply, very holistically. And now I'm doing things from the more mental and spiritual side as well. So yes, hello again, Eddie. Nice. Thank you again for saying hi. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm just taking the time to just spend time doing this channel to help people out in general with their addictions. And then as I grow as a man, like I'm a husband and a father now, I'll eventually be sharing videos probably next year in how to prepare yourself to find a mate, to find a soul, hopefully your soulmate or your spouse, and then how to inevitably be a good husband, a good father, how to have, deal better with your finances, just things in general about how to live. Because by God's grace, I've been blessed with a lot of knowledge and a lot of mentors, and I've come through a lot of trials, a lot of near-death experiences, a lot of tough situations that hopefully I can share with other people. And God has given me the skill set and the gift of gab. Do you play games when you were 8 years old? I did play games. I'm 40 now, so that was 32 years ago. 32 years ago, the only real game that you could say video game wise was Duck Hunt. I was playing at the time. Duck Hunt and maybe some Super Mario at my cousin's house. I didn't have anything. We were too poor growing up, but that's first world country poor, I guess you could say, or didn't have a lot. So that was fun, but it was a lot of times it was more board games, a lot more just playing games with your friends, marbles, stuff like that. God bless you too, Eddie. I appreciate you spending the time and chatting for sure. Yes, all right. So tonight again, we're talking about greed and pride and how they are addictions. So we just finished up reading Matthew 22:34 through 40, and Jesus is giving the exact ways to reverse pride and greed in our lives, which is to put God first, to love God, and then that defeats pride, and greed is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And that takes a lot to find ways to love yourself, especially when there's a lot of self-loathing and imposter syndrome going on in our world. So Jesus then doesn't command us doesn't give us a command like the commandments. He's giving us the root of how to care for ourselves and have deeper relationship. Instead of it being law driven, it is love driven. So instead of it being quote unquote a command throughout the New Testament, it is more so ways to live and how to live. Going back to Eddie here in the chat, he's chatting away. Thank you for all these questions and messages. Yeah, playing games with friends is the most fun. I'm a social creature. Now, my wife, for instance, is an introvert, and she likes to be alone a lot of the time. But, when we were both kids, like I didn't know her when we were kids, we grew up in different parts of the world. But she was also definitely a friend person, especially when you're younger. You just have so much more time. You have more bandwidth. You're able to play and want to play. And as you get older, it becomes tougher and tougher to play and have fun. But it is something that is very necessary to continue, having, just joy in your life, which is something that a lot of people will push away, and it is very sad. Okay, so here we go, back to where we were at. So even though we are very prideful and greedy in nature, which needs the law to contain them, when we accept the Trinity, we actually then take on a love and respect for God and making God our King. And that again eliminates the pride in our lives, because we're naturally born that way, to push away, to be the gods of our own lives. And then again, loving our neighbors allows us to stop the constant wanting to dominate other people, to steal from them, to take from them. And most people you meet are not going to have that as the first thing on their mind, but over time, it's the way your heart operates. It's the things that you covet, the things you want, like, oh, I want those shoes. I really like, their spouse. I like, the things that they get. And this comparison is the thief of joy. And Jesus is trying to tell us to not go down that road and to continually be trapped in that game, in that terrible, terrible game. Can you please pray for my friend Jared, who's struggling with abuse? Absolutely. We can pray right now. At any time, if anyone ever needs prayer, please let me know. We'll stop at any time. Lord Jesus, I just thank you again that we can always enter into your presence. We don't have to wait for a time, a place, or situation. We can just go right into prayer, and we can be with the Holy of in the Holy of Holies. And I thank you, Holy Spirit, for residing in us. Lord, I pray for our friend Christina Downs. I pray that you would help their friend Jared, who's struggling with substance abuse and addiction. It's awful, evil stuff, Lord. Thank you for helping anyone in the chat here, as well as myself, with breaking addictions or substance abuse. And I pray for Jared right now, who is struggling. Maybe he's on the streets, or maybe is going through a terrible time, probably dealing with problems with their family and friends. I just pray that you would reach into their lives and just speak to them and pull them out of the tough situation they're in Jesus' name. Thank you. Amen. And anyone on the chat, if you feel like you'd like to pray, please go right ahead and pray at any given time, or put in any prayer requests or any questions you might have. I'd love to continue the chat. Okay, so in summary, um, a godly relationship kills pride in the pursuit of fleshly, unquenchable desires. So this is why we talk about addiction, because when you get beyond the word sin, and then you go down to the first four, which is pride to dethrone God, and the next six sins, which is greed to just constantly want to take on every single level, those desires are unquenchable. And what are usually addictions or temptations? They're unquenchable feelings and wants that we're going to constantly, have or going to go after on a consistent basis. Uh, Eddie, do I have broken teeth? I do not. I am actually using Invisalign. Yeah, this is quite the study we're doing here. When I was young, so yeah, I not broken teeth, but I do have crooked teeth, and now I'm doing something called Invisalign. It's expensive, but my teeth, I've saved a lot of my life, and that's why I told you I can talk about finances in the future with a lot of you. I've been very blessed to be in the gutter and be doing well financially, and being able to be prepared to help people at any given time if need be, but mainly to support my wife and my children and the people around me, as well as the people within my church. So yeah, I did have very crooked teeth, but right now what's happening is that my bite is starting to shatter some of my teeth. So I have this thing called Invisalign, and you can see here, here's these little chips that inevitably pull my teeth apart, and my teeth are getting straighter. So a year from now, you may see that I have much better teeth, and it's a part of the long-term savings and giving to my extended family and family. I gave my mom and sister and dad over 250,000 Canadian dollars over a period of about 20 years to help them to get to stay afloat, which put me back, but also it kept them afloat, and now they're doing better. And now I have a wife and two daughters to take care of, and I'm very thankful that I can work hard and just be able to chat with you all and be in a lot of different realms, and be running different even types of companies at the same time. And I love being here. Okay, Eddie, have yourself a great night. Thank you for all the questions. I appreciate your heart. Have a great day in Malaysia. Appreciate you. All right, so back to what we were talking about, which is the unquenchable desires that God cures in our lives. While we love others, we stop the cycles of misery of domination. So when you're looking at really bad sins or addictions like gossip or pornography, or just like abusing other people's bodies, or just thinking about them all the time, or even the just addictions against our like maybe you have a substance abuse and you drag a spouse into it, or whatever it might be. When you start loving others with a Christ-like love, you start to see everyone on this plane of existence, that it's like they're a part of you. As again, Jesus says in Matthew 22, to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So it's like this, we're the body of Christ, so we're loving those people in a way that the world doesn't understand, because we're thinking it from a spiritual side of things. So again, tonight we're talking about pride and greed, and the addictions that pride and greed are the root of usually. If anyone has any questions or thoughts or prayer requests, please let me know. I'd love to answer any questions about fitness, about health, about addiction, love, any of those things. Again, I've been helping men predominantly men, but people over the past 20 years. I've been doing a lot of life coaching, and now I feel like I'm in the perfect place and perfect situation by God's grace to be talking about addiction tonight, but hopefully in the next years and decades to come, talking about all types of stuff about how to grow and mature as a person in a very interesting world. So again, no questions at all, which is again cool. Thank you again for joining. 10 p.m. Eastern time. I live in Toronto, usually on a Friday night. Okay, the third point is, so how does pride show itself? Well, we're born with these sinful natures and desires, and they keep coming back. And pride is a sneaky one, because our world and language uses pride in such a loose way, but there's no positive, like up in, I don't know into what century, maybe the 18th or 19th century, at least in the English language. I can't speak to the Greek or the Aramaic and so on and so forth, but the word pride was always something of dethroning God. It was never used in a real positive sense, but we have slowly contorted and taken the word. So I don't mince it over if people want to use the word or not. But in its nature, it is to dethrone God. And it really comes down to the simplest of things. It could be the way you perform in your job, the way you treat other people, your body. Maybe you're very muscular, you're very fit. Does that preoccupy your time and your mind on a consistent basis? And then all of a sudden, is that pushing God out and causing you to stop serving or go to other places or be around other places and people that you need to be around? And so pride just constantly is just always in the background trying to push God off of his rightful seat. And so we have to be very, very aware and very vigilant to make sure that we are keeping our pride in check and to have other people to check our pride. Have you ever met someone who just craves attention? That is a person who's struggling with pride. Now, they may just be struggling with their self-worth as well, but that inevitably, in its nature, comes from a prideful type feeling or disposition. They want to be the center of the attention. They want people to know them instead of figuring out their place in the universe, figuring out who God is in their lives and where their identity is, which we're going to be talking about next week. They usually don't want to have a relationship with God, or it's very shallow. Thanks for all those hearts. I appreciate it. And, always makes me feel nice to see them on the different screens here. And so that shallow relationship, again, is based off with relationship. I will not play with you, I promise. And Sigma, hello, how are you doing? Okay, so when they don't have a relationship with God, their whole lives are built on their next fix of human validation. So you got someone who, like, you know, I've helped a lot of men over the years with this, where they just constantly want to, they constantly need to be the center of the center of the situation, the room, the world. And most of the time, a person like that, I find, they are so broken on the inside. They just need everyone with eyeballs on them, and it's the pride that's building inside of them. But the thing is, it falls flat on their face because the source is themselves. I have one guy I know in particular who loves breakdancing, and at any given time, he has the opportunity to breakdance or wall run. And I don't know how he is now and his disposition now, but it came from a place of low self-worth. And the only thing he could do was, you know, do that trick that everyone applauded and liked, but he didn't love himself enough or put his faith in God enough to fully realize his identity and how much he was worth. Appreciate all the laughs and the messages, Sigma, cool beans. All right, so when you then put God as king in your life, again, you transform all of those feelings. You change the way your mindset works, and that pride that was once there is replaced with self-worth and totally replaced with a sense of parenthood, a proper parent. And that's usually what a lot of addictions spawn from, is bad relationships with our parents, or not understanding how to have the best relationship in the universe with our creator. Now, on the flip side, you have the greedy person, and this person is seeking to dominate. So on one side, you have the person who's like looking for self-validation, and on the other side, you have the person who's trying to suppress everyone around them, again, by stealing from them, by trying to be with their, you know, their spouse or their wife, by trying to steal their life physically by murdering them, or in the last verse in the Ten Commandments, all the different ways that they can covet or want, because it's a domination. They're greedy. There's no good greed that I know of, that I've ever heard of. So it is a constant state of really and truly destroying themselves. And, you know, any person that I found has been greedy, or, you know, I've talked to gang members in the past over the years, or people who come out of jail. Anyone who's greedy, they cannot sleep very well at night. They are very concerned about anything they have taken from someone, that it's going to be taken back from them, or they're going to face those consequences. And it is a very, very tough place to be in. Eddie, you're back. That's wonderful. And Sean, nice to see you again. We're gonna go to the questions here. Always love answering questions as we go. Um, is your real name Stephen Tocher, Eddie? Yes, it is. That was a quick fire one. It is Stephen. It's actually, I'm Scottish, German, Guyanese, Indian, so it's Stephen Tocher. My dad is German and Scottish. If a girl and a guy are in no contact, how long should you wait before you text her? Should you match her energy, or try to fight for us? Sean, I think you and I were talking about, is this a situation where you had a girlfriend of 2 years and she kind of was mistreating you at times? It's, I think, been 2 weeks since we chatted. Have you talked to her? Sorry, when was the last time you did talk to her? And have you been able to confront her on any of the things that we talked about that night? I'll leave you to get back to me on that. And if anyone else has any questions about relationships, about finances, about God, about life, weight loss, health, I'm here for you. And I still haven't fixed, I got this amazing pull up bar. I six dead bolted it. I can give me up to 1,000 pounds of resistance. My daughters love hanging on it. I'm teaching them how to do pull ups and stuff. I couldn't do pull-ups when I was a kid. I was really overweight. I weighed over 140 kgs at one point, and now I'm down to about 90. I went to as low as 85 kgs, but I love the pull-up bar. It's like my favorite thing to do. Calisthenics, body weight. Like I did some powerlifting for a while, but I just find it's hard on the joints. I really enjoy calisthenics in general. Yes, loving the kitty, Eddie. I'm loving the emojis here. Okay, all right. So the behaviors of a greedy person is like breathing, or I guess greed and pride is like breathing for our sinful nature. We have to think of our nature in that physical realm. It's of the flesh. And it's literally like if you were to hold your breath for 30, 40, 50 seconds. I actually have a manager at work who can hold their breath for 5 minutes. He's one of those professional deep sea divers. Um, I shouldn't say deep sea, but he's a sea diver. Like he does scuba diving, but he also does free diving. And so when you are as a sinful person, it's breathing for you to be greedy or prideful. And so these people are constantly, losing their breath. They're looking for that next person to absorb into their lives. There's a lot of illustration and visuals of like, you know, being sucking the life out of people, and that's what people do when they're greedy and they are prideful. Just like the person who's addicted to a substance or another person, again, they're trying to extract what they can to get that hit from them. Yeah, you made me laugh. Thank you, Eddie. Sean, yes, I talked to her. I asked her why she makes fun of me. She said she thinks I'm immature and insecure. I told her I'm not ready to propose. She ghosted me 2 weeks. Sean, there's your answer, my brother. We talked about this in depthly, and if you can go back and look at the live stream, I think it was 4 weeks ago. We talked about this in depthly. She was using you as, and if I again, it's been 4 weeks since we talked, but she was using you as a punching bag. She was only around her family. She was suppressing any of the good stuff that you were going to potentially move to, I think it was Saudi Arabia, to help your father with his business. Or help your father with his business. She was also making fun of you with other family members. And overall, she was just, making fun of your appearance and who you are. That is not a woman you want to be around with. That is not a person you are in love with, or you can love and grow in love. If she ghosted you, that is the best thing that could happen. That shows her character. Imagine if you're actually in a relationship, married, and she ghosts you and she just doesn't talk to you. That would just be the worst. So please, Sean, if you are telling me the truth and everything is lining up, and again, every single conversation that we have online, I don't know, the other side of the story. But if you're telling me the truth, or as close to the truth as possible, then I would say she is the one who's very immature and insecure. And you do not need to be around someone like that. And good riddance. Very, very happy for you. Now, that's not easy to hear. I have, over the years, helped 7 couples to get married. I've helped couples get together over the years. But one of the things that I feel as a big brother, or just as someone who has life coached and mentored people in the past. Helping people to break up is one of the things that is deep into my heart, because the divorce rate is so high, violence is so high in a lot of relationships these days, verbal, physical, emotional, mental, that if you can get out of a relationship before it gets really bad, you want to do that. You do not want to stay in a toxic relationship with someone who is clearly ghosting you and mistreating you. That's terrible. It is not a good way to live, and I am very happy that she has ghosted you. That is wonderful news, because imagine again if she did that to you when you were married. She would just go and spend time with her family and not care about you. I am super, super happy for you. And it's not easy in the moment. I've had breakups myself, or I've had to break up with a girl, or she's broken up with me, and it hurts in the moment because your self-worth is shot. But again, if you trust God and you are spending time to get to know God more, it will work out in the end. You will meet the right person. And this opens up an opportunity for you to be with your dad and to go help him there, and to hopefully meet another wonderful woman who treats you with respect and kindness, because you do not deserve at all to be ghosted that way, to be talked about by her family, to be mistreated and used, and especially as a joke. No matter how good looking she is, or her finances, or whatever it might be, you do not want to spend the next 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years of your life with someone who is that toxic. So, you know what, again, if you told me the truth, bye bye, see you later. Tell her, if she tries to get back to you, just leave her be. You go mature and find that one person who is right for you. Again, if you've told me everything that is correct so far. So again, keep the questions coming, or thoughts or comments. Nice to connect with you, Sean, after 4 weeks. And please keep messaging any other questions or thoughts. We're talking about greed and pride, and how they are the roots of addiction. So when a person, just like when a person is addicted to a substance or another person, in time they will push everyone away, or they will abuse someone, and all because they cannot deal with the impulses that they have. Again, is addiction is like breathing for the flesh. So, like for myself in the past, I was addicted to gambling. I was addicted to sports. I was addicted to gaming. I was addicted to food. I was over 140 kgs. Now I'm down to about 85, 90 kgs. I was addicted to porn. All of these things was my flesh aching, grasping for that next breath. And hopefully it sounds funny, but you have to suffocate the flesh. You have to, you have to cause withdrawal. Like when someone stops drinking or stops smoking, the nicotine or the alcohol in their system or the caffeine even, is aching to get out of to get more into their body. So you have to cut it out and cut it off right away. Okay, before I go to my final point, again, if you have any questions or thoughts, please let me know. To break it up again, I love going to the chat. Eddie, what sport do you like? I love American football. I know to the rest of the world, I know you're from Malaysia. It's probably soccer is number one, or maybe it's cricket or another sport, but I love American football. Basketball, I played American football. I was a quarterback for a little while, tight end, linebacker. I played basketball. In high school, I was the tall guy, but I wasn't tall in the world. So I did have to play center, but I would have loved to play point guard. And again, I was over 300 pounds, 140 kgs for a long time. So I had the dribbling skills, I had the vision, I had the ability to shoot, but I just couldn't play defense. I didn't lose enough weight overall. I like baseball. Baseball's super fun. Would have loved to play cricket, but I never had the opportunity. So hello again, Eddie. Thanks again for all your comments and thoughts and questions. I appreciate it. Love talking sports. Love talking sports. Okay, so the final point tonight about greed and pride being the main source of addiction is that it's so rarely talked about in life. We talk about sin, and then we talk about the individual sins, but we don't talk about those two major roots, because it's really hard to identify. And really hard to pinpoint. It's kind of like when you say, there's a phrase that says, it's said that disabilities that are seen are usually cared for more. And I think that's 100% true. So let's think of it this way. Think of someone who has 2 broken legs in a wheelchair versus someone who's dealing with depression. People are going to see that person with the visible issue and are going to be running to open the door, ask what happened, try to help, have a laugh with them or whatever it might be. While someone dealing with like a mental health issue like depression or another type of mental illness, people are, they don't know how to communicate as well. So people kind of like look away, they don't engage, or they just don't, they leave, they don't talk to them at all. And that is a broken thing about the internals of sin and how hard it can be to detect. So we have to be very aware of the people that are around us. Hey, Babu, how are you? Have you ever been in a street fight? I have witnessed street fights, but when I was younger, not only was I overweight, but I was a big chicken. And so I have never really had the opportunity to go toe to toe. Uh, I've stopped bar fights. I have pushed people. I have, kicked people, but I've never been in a street fight per se. And most of the smartest fighters in the world, I did take a little bit of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and Muay Thai. I'd like to take it again. I'm useless. I couldn't fight anybody. I have back problems, if anything. As I just like the training behind it and the fitness behind it, and obviously to stop a fight, the best fighters in the world say you need to get away to just stop and diffuse a situation. Okay, so Sean again. I guess it's a sign from God. I will step away from this girl. I feel sad because I wasted 2 years for nothing. Haha, Sean, let me look right into the camera. You did not waste 2 years. You learned 2 years. I think you said you were like in your early 20s. My man, you got like, if God willing, unless you get hit by a bus or something else changes or God comes or whatever it might be, you have like 70, 80 years, especially if you eat well and you live well, especially with the technology today. You got like 70, 80 years of your life ahead of you. 2 years wasted on someone, you think it's wasted. In a bad relationship, you learn a lot. I've been in bad relationships before, and that led me to my wife. Never, ever, ever say that or think that again. It's gonna hurt and sure be frustrated. And sorry, I shouldn't say never say that again. You're gonna feel that way. You can say that again. That's not a problem. But in the back of your mind, never, ever forget that you've learned a lot over the past 2 years, and it is a great thing that you've learned this, okay? So, don't worry, Sean. I think it is a sign from God. Like, I'm technically a random guy on the internet. You're a random person commenting. You trusted me enough, and we called it out, you spoke up to her, and she ghosted you immediately. You did what most people don't have the courage to do, which is stand up for yourself and be strong. I am very pleased with you, Sean, and you will, I promise you'll find the right people in your life to make you feel good. And when you find someone who loves you for who you are, no matter what they look like, their finances, whatever it might be, and I always tell guys, go for the girl who's cute. Don't go for the girl who's super hot or whatever it is. Go for the girl who's cute, because at the end of the day, that cuteness usually translates to the rest of your life, especially when you get old and gray and you're both, falling apart. You want that person who you can laugh with and who, is your best friend. And to be with someone who is mistreating you and treats you like garbage, to work on yourself, to trust God, and to get better and stronger, that's amazing, Sean. You keep it up, brother. I'm very pleased to hear this sad news for you right now, but hopefully in 3, 5, 10 years from now, you'll be super thankful that you were able to break it off with a very, very hostile, nasty acting person. And again, there's plenty of wonderful women out there. So from what you've told me, I'm very, very happy. And you did not waste those 2 years. You can feel that way, but you did not waste those 2 years. Do you eat a lot of ramen noodles? Absolutely. Sushi. So sushi, Korean, Thai, Malaysian, that's probably like my top 10 foods. Indian food is amazing. I love Italian food. But the thing is, I'm allergic to gluten now. So a lot of I'm sure if I was eating in Italy, the gluten wouldn't be a factor, where I'm allergic to wheat because they're using real, raw, wonderful ingredients. So if the ramen is wheat, I can't. But if it's rice noodles, I'm down. I'm game. Sushi is my favorite food in the whole world. Toronto has a beautiful cuisine. Now, granted, it's Toronto cuisine, so it's not authentic all the time. But you do find those places where the person came from that country and they've been cooking for a while, and man, it's explosive. I'm loving the dap there, Eddie. Yes, I love sushi. Sushi is where it's at. Uh, and do you like fighting? Okay, so I like the art of fighting. I do not like the UFC and stuff like that, or boxing where they're trying to bash each other's brains in. Maybe Olympic boxing, Olympic wrestling, Olympic type scoring fighting, I'm okay with because it's like more the skill set than trying to beat someone's brains out. But if someone does fighting and stuff like that, it is what it is. That's what they like, or they're Christians or whatever it might be. Have you eaten bugs before, like scorpions or ants? I have not. I've had crickets. Crickets are pretty good. I've had cricket powder too, protein shakes and stuff like that. Not scorpion or ants. That is definitely not something that I would really want to try. I had frog legs. That was good times. I actually was at a barbecue and I had a bunch of friends, who were cooking up at the back, and I was like starving. I just done like a powerlifting session, came late, and I'm just chowing down on these chicken legs. But I'm like, these chicken legs don't actually look like chicken legs. And so, I go to my friend who's she's a chef, and I was like, "What is this? It tastes amazing." And she goes, "Oh, they're frog legs." And I'm like, "Man, okay, I don't care. They're delicious. They're wonderful." And I just kept eating them that night, and they have great protein overall. And it's not something that I would go and cook myself, but if it's there, please go ahead. It actually tastes like chicken. A lot of things taste like chicken, and I love chicken. So yes, I have eaten some bugs. I've eaten frog. I've eaten a lot of different food. I love sushi. I love cuisine in general. Everything in moderation. As again, you guys know, I used to be over 300 pounds, 140 kgs. How do you feel about Charlie Kirk? That is a heavy question. I'll say straight off the bat, it's horrible that someone got shot for their opinion. And of course, people will say on both sides of the political spectrum in North America that a lot of people were polarizing and people called this up on themselves, and that's awful. That someone would get shot, and also it's awful that the person felt horrible enough to shoot somebody. A lot of times people don't grasp the fact that there's a shooter involved, a person who's usually a broken person. They might be have malice, they might be evil acting per se, but someone got pushed to the brink. So first and foremost, someone's opinion, and it's opinion. He wasn't telling you other people to go kill other people and so on and so forth. And the person, the shooter, and then all the people had to witness that. But the real tragedy comes from his wife and kids, I think, by far. And earlier I prayed for them tonight. Like I can't imagine my two little kids finding out that, I've died and my wife going through that. So, there's a lot of nuances. I know that, Charlie Kirk was changing some of his opinions that I would agree on a bit more. I didn't agree with, I'd say 30 or 20 or 30% of the stuff he said, but the Christian stuff I was down with. And, everyone's got to start somewhere. He was 31 years old. That's very young. You know what I mean? So all I can say is I'm praying for him and his family. I haven't watched enough to say a lot about who Charlie Kirk was, but, he definitely seemed to love the Lord, and, no one deserves to get shot, and no one also deserves to, um, you know, uh, be, we all, by God's grace, we are all in this broken world together, and we all have to uplift each other. And I hope that more people will be praying for the people who are the shooters as well as the people who are getting shot at, and for God's protection on his own. So a very, very touchy and tough situation. Hopefully that kind of answers that, Babu. If you want to go a little deeper, I could try, but I don't know enough about the situation fully to really deeply speak into it. I just know that we're just praying for his family and for things to calm down in America, as everything is very, very polarized. Do you love movies and popcorn? I used to, but I'm allergic to popcorn. I'm allergic to corn as well, which sucks. Ice cream, love it. Ice cream is one of my vices. Don't keep it in the house. That's how I've been able to keep the over 100 pounds off my body. When I was young, yup. I do not watch Squid Game. Just never got into it really. Appreciate all the questions and keep them coming whenever you like. I'll get back to them. Okay, so back to greed and pride. So we've talked about various factors, and the final point that we're dealing with is why greed and pride is not talked about. So similarly, when a person is prideful or greedy, most of the people in church or at work, they usually just walk away. They just treat them either as like, oh, you're super handsome or you have a lot of money or whatever it might be, you work really well in business or blah blah blah. And nothing wrong with owning a business and doing well financially or being handsome or beautiful or whatever. It's just people look up to people. We live in a world of a lot of fake people, and so it's hard to call out someone who's greedy or prideful. It's not so hard to call out someone who steals something, but where does it come from? It comes from a greedy spirit. So we have to pray for a lot of discernment, because there's a lot of people in the church and a lot of people at work and a lot of people in our lives and our families who are prideful and greedy, and it is a horrible root of addiction, and it is an addiction in itself, to either pride to dethrone God or greed to dominate other people and want to take from everyone at every facet of their life. So it's super hard to deal with, super hard to call out, and that's why most people are not well equipped to take them on. In my life over the years, I have taken on many people who are greedy and prideful. I've kicked people out of studies or churches or places, off of teams. I was team captains of different sports, and it's hard to detect sometimes. But when you have that heart to heart, and you really go back to the verse that I was saying in Matthew chapter 22, when it talks about the two rules and laws that would push out pride and greed. When you have those types of questions and you speak with those people, they usually tend to show their pride and their greed in the way that they answer those questions. So let me just go back to the chat here, and then I'm going to get to the solution. Granted, I'm a short solution. I think I'll have to do another entire video stream on the how to deal with prideful and greedy people. I think I'll be doing many streams on that in the future, as this channel right now is to deal with addiction, but in the future, and at any time anyone asks questions, it's about how to grow up in the 21st century. I'm 40 years old myself. I've beaten over 7 different types of addictions. I've lost over 100 pounds. Sorry, I keep saying this stuff, but as new people come on, I just want people to know where I'm at, who I am, what I'm all about. All right, going back to the questions here. Do you ever think about doing a podcast? You can interview people with addictions. That is actually the next step I will be pursuing. And I have other pastoral friends and people that I would love to chat with. But again, it is very difficult for me. I work a full-time job. I also, do a little bit of trading. I'm doing the YouTube stuff, and I have another type of part-time job as I'm taking on an apprenticeship right now in a spiritual context. So, and then inevitably, as I produce stuff like this more, I'm writing a book, and I want to help people on that baseline. And as other time frees up in the future, I definitely would love to do more podcasts. Do I know Ji-Hoon? No, I do not. And player 222 in the end game. I absolutely do not, Eddie. I'm not into the Squid Games at all, but sounds fun. Have you ever been to Scotland since you are Scottish? No, I would love to. I have a little story about that, actually. As again, I love chatting in the chat. We'll talk about addictions and stuff like that, but talk real life. So my wife and I, in 2020, in January, went on a cruise. And, I hadn't really traveled much. And my wife and I were enjoying our honeymoon, and we almost signed up for a cruise that would have gone from the Netherlands, where she's from, to Germany and Scotland and England, and then back to the Netherlands. And so this cruise would have been pretty expensive, but it was like 55% off. But it was, if you pay for it, you have to pay for one shot, no refund. And we prayed about it, we thought about it, we prayed about it, and we said no. And 2 months later, COVID started. So we saved ourselves like $4,000 plus tickets to get there, which is the bigger cost would have been probably just to get out there. So I'd love to have gone to Scotland, because it's a brave I'm Scottish. I say McTavish. My name is Tocher. So my grandfather, he was 102, old Scottish man. He'd always be spitting on himself. I picked up the accent. I'm not doing it well. My throat's been hurting. I've been streaming for a while and spending time with the kiddos, but I promise you I will be doing a Scottish accent in the future. Love you. Hope you have a good life. Oh, thank you, Eddie. That's so kind of you. Love you too. Appreciate you. Thanks again for being on the chat as long as you have, and all of your comments, and hope to see you next week around this time if you have some time. Okay, so getting back, I'm trying to answer the questions as we go here. The solution to how to deal with pride and greed. All right. So it's, obviously a very in-depth answer, but the simplest one is that we surrender to God in love. And it's that aspect of Matthew 22 again, which is to really surrender ourselves, our throne over to God, for God to sit on that throne. And everything will be done in a new fashion and new way. When I was struggling with porn in particular, from the greed aspect of things, I wanted to dominate. I wanted to be the big shot. I wanted to make, women feel wonderful around me because of what I could do for them. There wasn't a shred of love there. It was all about my bravado, my strength, me working out, me, wanting these beautiful women to want me, not want God. You know, it was pride and it was greed at the same time. I wanted their bodies. I didn't want to know them, to have a relationship with them. And that's what love does, is it transcends everything in your life. And you'll find no better source in the universe than to give your heart over to God. And if anyone would ever like to talk about that, we're on the chat here tonight. I'm watching Whiplash. It is a good movie. Oh, all right, Babu. Whiplash. I do not know who stars in that. Could you give me a little rundown on Whiplash here? Now, with that being said, does anyone also have any prayer requests? We definitely have some time for prayer, or if you have any questions at this time, I would love to answer any questions anyone has about finances, fitness, faith, philanthropy, work, how to find a better job. We talk about AI, things of that nature. If you have an addiction you'd like to talk about. Thank you again, Sean and Eddie and Babu, for a lot of your comments tonight. I appreciate it. And I'm usually here around this time, an hour previously. I've been streaming for about an hour. So wherever you are in the world, on a Friday, if it's day, like I live in North America, it's nighttime. But if it's daytime somewhere like in Malaysia or some in India or wherever it might be, on a Saturday for you, usually it's Friday here, Saturday for yourselves. I am here, and I'm talking about usually a different form of addiction or a problem, or like I was talking to the gentleman Sean earlier about, he was in a bad relationship, and by God's grace, he's being able to move away from that bad relationship with a very toxic woman. Miles Teller and part of an elite band. To put a teacher, he keeps yelling at them to push them, but he goes too far. Oh, interesting. Okay, I haven't heard of Whiplash. I'll definitely take a look. I really love movies. I went to school to do film. Now I'm doing YouTube. I have 300 plus videos on YouTube here. I did the weight loss stuff beforehand, and now in my shorts and hopefully my long form videos, you'll see more of my film and editing skills. This is just a very simple way for me to stream right now, where it's just on my phone and just chatting with anyone who'd like to chat about addiction or life or Christianity or anything like that in general. That's very cool. Nice Teller. Right on. So again, if anyone has any questions or comments about pride or greed or addictions, please let me know. I'm gonna bust out the joke again earlier. Did you know that Jesus is divine and we are the branches? I'll just leave that alone for you right there. Dad joke. Yes, I'm trying to, in future, I'm going to try to add a joke and go into prayer time right away, which we did. Take any prayer requests, which is always something I love doing. Prayer is extremely powerful. We do not know how powerful it truly is. Okay. Yeah. What age did you start feeling like a UNC? At what age did you start feeling like a UNC? I don't know what a UNC is. I'm sorry. I'm maybe ignorant to some slang. I am 40 now. I'm getting old. Huh? What? Uncle. What age did you start feeling like an uncle? It's such a brown question to ask. I love it. So I would say when I was okay, so I had a lot of wonderful mentors over the years, and even guys in their 50s and 60s would tell me in my 20s and 30s that because of the abuse that I went under, because of the weight loss, because of the bullying that the finances, the saving, like again, like I've said in the past, I've helped my mom, dad, and sister with over $250,000 over a 20-year period. I just kind of felt like I was getting older faster than most people. And so when I had these people maybe 15, 10, 15 years ago consistently who were professionals, who had their PhDs, who had their master's degrees, who owned big homes, who owned their own businesses, when they kept on saying to me I should start life coaching and I should share what I have to say, that started to get me thinking like an uncle, and hopefully like a life coach. And like I've said before, I've helped hundreds of people, probably getting closer to thousands, but I've helped hundreds of people with, anything from weight loss to, dealing with addiction, counseling them through a bad breakup, helping them, along with my wife to get in a good relationship, and some people to even get married. So it was a progression. It wasn't like a moment in time where I felt like a mentor, or I felt like a life coach, or as you said, an uncle. Um, but it did take time, because a lot of times there's something called imposter syndrome. And so even though one of my mentors, he and his wife at the time were in their 60s, said that your life at age 30 had been harder than their lives combined. And they had some tough lives. And they said that I was acting extremely maturely. Even though they said that 10 years ago, it took me up until about last year to really understand the gift that I have, which is to immediately help people decipher their problems, talk them through it, and point them in the right direction to the right professional most of the time. But if I can leave them with nuggets of truth, fantastic. So I think it took, yeah, about 10 to 15 years of slow growth and slow maturity from the actions that I was doing 20 to 25 years ago. And it really came together with a deep sense of strength in the past year. But I could definitely say about 10 years ago, that's when it really started to hit me that I was blessed, skilled, and given this ability to help people on a larger scale. And just, yeah, and bless people. And I love giving advice. I love speaking. And I thank you again for all the questions and comments that you all have put together over the past hour and some. And I am feeling more and more confident. I think it's my sixth or seventh stream now. And I want to continue this into the weeks, months, and years to come. I do like, I think, Babu, what you said, which is to start a podcast. I would definitely love to do that, as well as a call-in show where at some point I can get my hands on a toll-free number and actually have some dialogue. Do you want to be the oldest person living on the planet? It's a goal of mine. You know, if I'm healthy and if I'm not a burden to anyone, sure, let's see where this world goes. Of course, like, it's all in God's hands. But yeah, I definitely would love to live on the earth a fairly long time. I've got some genes too. Like, I do have a lot of health problems and concerns that by God's grace I've overcome over the years. But my grandfather lived to 102. My other grandmother lived to 97. My other grandmother lived to 91. And my other grandfather, he died prematurely because of like a natural death problem. So I do have the genes to potentially have a prolonged life, but you never know. So, do I want to be the oldest person living on the planet? Probably not, because you start to see the lives that they lead. As the oldest person in the world is still alive, and I think like 116 or 18 or 20, whatever it is now, and they seem to be miserable. But there are those people in their like hundreds, especially in like places like Japan or in the blue zones. If you've ever seen that, take a look at the blue zones documentaries or even YouTube it. The blue zone, the way people eat, it's pretty amazing. I don't eat that way. I'm more protein obsessed because I didn't have a lot of protein growing up, and I now know the benefits of protein and having more of it. It's not a god for me. It's not like I have to get it, but I try to get 200 grams of protein a day into my body, which isn't that hard when you think of all the other types of money we all waste on different things. So I'm glad, Babu, it's a goal of yours to be the oldest person in the world at a given time, and it'd be amazing. I guess you're in maybe your 20s now, so probably be 120, 130. So that would lead you into the next century, which would be phenomenal. Hopefully, you can see the next century. For myself, it would just come down to health. Would I be in a good state of health? And I don't think I will be. But depending on robotics and AI and the way we can mend ourselves and heal ourselves and deal with good nutrition and strength, I think you know you've got a chance. So the question I pose back to you, Babu, is why do you want to be the oldest person on the planet at any given time, or I guess in the future? Hopefully that's not now, or else a lot of people are gonna die. So why would you want to be there? Untapped potential. How was having a wife change you? Oh, so well. Thank you for that question. I appreciate that. Okay, wow, that's a fantastic question. So I would say in dating my wife, so I had bad relationships in the past. I had one family that was racist, that I'm glad that God took me away from. And then I had one woman who was trying to desperately change me, and I dated different races. And so when I met my wife, she and I, right off the bat, were opposite personalities, and that helped to already help me to identify things that she needs that I don't do naturally and need. And so I would say then reading The Five Love Languages by Gary Chapman, a fantastic book. I think it's sold 20 or 30 million copies, 40 different types, or 40 different, what's it called, languages it's being translated into. So ways that it has changed my life to have a wife. I would say you definitely think of yourself second most of the time. I'm constantly thinking about what my wife might need, and I think that's the whole point. Again, from a Christian perspective, when it says, husbands and wives, the word is submit, but what the word used to mean was to respond, because it's like you submit a resume. It's not like submit to me or vice versa. It's a responding to. So I want my wife to be in a state of peace and happiness and safety. So what do? I'm treating her with care, and my wife knows for the most part that I'm always thinking about her first, and vice versa. She's trying to think about me. Now, women usually have to tend with more physical problems, ailments, their period, pregnancy, all these different types of things. And so as men, as providers and protectors, we have to try our best to be gracious and kind. And like Paul, I think it's Peter or Paul says, to love the weaker sex in that sense, because it's not like they're weaker mentally. My wife has protected me in so many ways emotionally, and I'll explain a visual if you're still here Untapped, that I think God gave me to help to illustrate the uniquenesses and strengths of a wife and a husband. But in so many ways, just in those preliminary first, I'd say, year or so, it really helped me to identify the things that she needed and to be constantly on those things. And the five love languages is a great way to internalize the way of loving you need to receive, and how you are recharged, and how to love your spouse in the future. So how to even just like the baseline of loving one another. So the visual that I have of strength is like, women usually stereotypically have an amazing intuition. And the idea of intuition, if you don't know what that means, is like the long view of things, the ability to understand someone, if they have bad intent or whatever it might be for you. And so I look at them as kind of like the arrow bearer or the sniper, and they're at the top of, like, let's just say, this castle, and they're seeing the enemy from afar off, and they're picking them off far off for you. Now, as the men, and again, stereotypically, I see us as the gatekeepers, as the fence, the defense, literally, the last line of defense. And we have our massive clubs or our swords, and anyone who gets too close that my wife can't take out, with her sniper rifle or with her arrows, I'm down in the trenches willing to take them out. And the beauty of it is that we're protecting our home, which is our castle. And in the analogy, there's going to be times when, a stray bullet hits her, or she can't be at the top of the castle, and I have to do double guard. And there's going to be times when I fall, or the enemy's at me or at the gates, and she needs to come down and take up a longsword with me. So in so many ways, being married causes you to have one another's back, but you don't have to be the same. you're have the other person's back in a completely different way, and it's unique because you wouldn't be able to see the long range, the way that, one of the spouse, people in the marriage will be able to see usually. You guys can see some of actually psoriasis that I have, which is one of the allergies and problems I have with my skin, which I was talking about earlier. So hopefully that gives you like a little bit of a nugget into, how a wife has changed me. Um, you never leave, Eddie. Yes, you are very faithful. Thank you. Other things that has changed me is I'm way more patient. I thought I had the fruit of the spirit. Like I thought I was like, oh yeah, I got this on lockdown. I had done ministry for years, but having someone living in your space and you living in theirs, it changes the way you approach everything, whether it's cooking, eating, and thankfully with my exes, I got to a point where I realized that we didn't have the same eating, the same thought processes on like food or sleep. And my wife and I are very different in a lot of other ways too. But the foundation, the fundamentals of her, like even supporting me for the way I need to be healthy and I support her for her health, or she loves to clean. So sometimes I just take the kids out and give her 2 hours to just clean and just let her enjoy some music and have some fun. I've become a lot more tender-hearted of being married. And on the flip side, she's become way more attuned to the struggles that men face. And, she was a lot more frustrated with, people in general. But since I've been around her and she's, I hope, felt the tenderness of my heart and all the things I've gone through, the empathy and sympathy that God has given me, she's changed drastically too. And then it's that evolution where you may be very different at the beginning, but if you talk to couples who've been married 40, 50, 60 years, or you talk to people around them, it's like you're talking to almost a similar person. And it's just because of what the Bible says, you become one flesh over time. And you have the same opinions and thoughts on most things, not everything. Me and my wife still can get at each other about a bunch of different stuff. But iron sharpens iron, and iron is sharpening iron is fire. It's loud, it's clashing, it's clanging. It's a lot of figuring stuff out. How do you guys solve arguments? Thank you again, Untapped, for the question. I feel if you get past the part, the bond is super strong. Yes. I think you got to do that ahead of time. Muhaha. Yes, Eddie. So you definitely, I'd say, in the dating realm, should ask the tough questions. There's a lot of fear that men have in particular about putting themselves out there, getting out there, dating someone. But you only need to date one person to get married, for real, for real. Like I've dated like 10 women over the course of my life. I've had 2 long relationships before I met my wife, and for sure, when I had the deep conversation with those other 9 women, it was lickety split. It took a matter of weeks or months for us to break up. So you have to have those hard conversations. Now, how do we solve arguments? Well, I think we have to, bring up, those. You have to take the argument or take that different point of view, and you need to just ask questions. My goal as a Christian, as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a coworker, as a mentor, as a life coach, as a friend, supporter, is to understand. I may not agree, but it's to understand and to spend hours even to focus in and listen and spend that quality time talking to my spouse or to other people. And so that has proven to be the long suffering aspect of the fruit of the Spirit. To keep asking questions, even when the questions are tough. So let's just say, I'll try to bring up something that was at the beginning of a relationship that we differed on. Something pretty simple but means a lot. So what time we get up and what time we go to bed. My wife loves to get up early, and my wife loves to go to bed early. I like to stay up a little bit later, and I like to get up a little bit later. And she had always come from a world where her parents got up at the same time my parents didn't. And so we had to dive deep into, okay, well, what happened? Why were our parents different in that sense? Why are we different? And what goals and what positives and negatives can come up from it? And For a while, she tried to stay up a little bit later. I would go to bed a little earlier. We'd try to get up around the same time. And funny enough, we realized that we actually would step on each other's toes. And now the beauty of it is that because we went through the exercise of talking it out and loving each other and trying with each other, that we naturally just flowed into a situation where my girls are asleep, my wife is asleep, I'm live streaming right now, but I get all the extra housework done in the evening, paying bills, whatever it might be. I do a little bit of gaming, and my wife will get up earlier. She enjoys getting up a little bit earlier. She can set up her breakfast the way she does. I intermittent fast. So in a simple situation like that, that could have been very, tension based, it was alleviated over time, but it's because we spent the time to talk it out and understand each other. So, you can have like even theological differences or differences on, how you believe something. Like my wife is a very intense, and if we're getting too Christianese for you guys, just tell me. But she's very deep into predestination, and I believe that it's predestination with a choice from us. I don't believe we're robots in that sense, and she doesn't either. And we've had many clashes over the past 5 years, 6 years about talking about it, and the clashes end in productiveness, and we try to pray with each other before and after. And that's something that also I would suggest that, if I don't know if you're in a relationship, Untapped, or if you're not, or you're wanting to be in a relationship, but praying before and after things is a really good thing to do. Do we do it all the time? No. Are we terrible to each other sometimes? Yes. I'm sorry, my wife. I do it. My bad. But for the most part, we do, and it proves to be quite beneficial for both of us. How many meals you eat in a day? So before I continue Untapped, I used to be over 140 kgs. I'm down to about 95 kgs now. I used to be down to about 85, no, about 95 kgs. So about over 310 pounds or so. And I went down to about $185. I'm about 210 now, 205 maybe. I do a lot more weight training and lifting, and I eat a lot more protein. So that's just the background. So how many meals do I eat in a day? It really depends. Sometimes, especially when I was doing ministry work and stuff like that on Sunday, sometimes I wouldn't eat for like 20, 30 hours, like a decade ago. And I'd only eat like a meal or not even a meal in the day. And I've gone away from that now because I have kids. So I'd say my average day is I probably fast 12 to 16 hours on any given day. And on the weekends, I don't always try to fast, especially if you watch, I think, not Jeff Nippard, but there's another guy out there who talks about fitness. You want to break up intermittent fasting. So I usually do like 4 or 5 times a week, like 12 to 16 hours, sometimes 18-hour fasts. And then on the weekend, if my kids want to eat with me in the morning, I'm never going to say no to that. I want to spend time with them. So I would say, to answer your question, sorry, in the longest way possible, I eat 3 meals, 2 snacks, I guess you could say. But it's like protein first, fillingness first. So protein and vegetables, like even my smoothie, when me and my wife are watching a TV show at the end of the night, we get the kids to bed by 8, and by 9 or so, or 8:30, we're watching a TV show, and I make this like humongous, like 1.5 liter smoothie, and it's just a little bit of bananas, some blueberries, some protein, and it like helps me get to 200 grams for the day. So say I'm off by 50, I put in 2 scoops. If I'm off 60, 2.5 or whatever, right? Or 2 1/3. So, and I put in tons of ice, and it's this delicious, icy, wonderful smoothie. Eddie, thank you for all the stickers. I appreciate you, man. You are definitely lighting up the chat and keeping that algorithm going. Appreciate you greatly. So yeah, I'd say the main focus for me is protein. So it's a little hard for me to answer that straight up, but it's if you would like Untapped, I can explain to you what I usually have in a day. But the main goal for me is like 200 grams of protein, as much fiber as I can get into my body, some vegetables, some fruits, as much clean stuff as possible. And do I have a treat? Yes, I'm 40 years old. I'll have a half a donut. I'll have a lollipop, whatever. You know what I mean? Like the rest of the time is like 95% of the rest of my eating is very clean. So if you want me to go deeper into it, Untapped, like what I have for the most part every single day. I can break that down for you. But yeah, that's the main crux of the matter. It's probably about 3 meals, 2 snacks in a day, topped it up with a protein shake if need be within an 8 or 10 hour window. And again, on the weekends, it can be different. But man, I don't know if y'all have seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine or not, but Tocher loves yogurt. Yeah, I love yogurt. I'm a big milk head. Um, how did you know a girl was into you back in the day? Okay, so it's obviously different now because y'all have your phones. Actually, I don't even know how old you are. Untapped potential. Um, so at 20, 15, 20, 25 years ago, and I was overweight, so I didn't have a lot of women who were interested in me. Uh, Actually, I did have some women interested in me because of who I was as a person, and they were lovely people, but I was still caught in that game of pride and porn and everything else I've talked about in former chats and the chat tonight. So for myself, it was, you know, in the interpersonal connections, when you did talk to them, did they play with their hair? Did they try to touch your shoulder? Were they really interested? Did they lean into the conversation? Did they ask about you on a consistent basis? Did they want to spend time with you? Just simple markers. Eddie, I appreciate all the stickers. I really do. But I hope with all the stickers, it also, I don't mind but just slow it down a little bit. Keep the stickers coming, but just slow it down just a little down. And it's also too, because I get to see the stickers that I never even knew they were there. Just slow it down a little bit. Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate you. I like the growling dog or orange dog thing the most too. It's really funny. So yeah, I would say that is something that, okay, come on, Eddie, keep a sticker coming. Let's go. I want to see a sticker, but just not every 10 seconds. So yes, the potential of a girl is interested in you. So yeah, I think those telltale signs are always there, just that interest factor. And it's also too, there's a certain amount of, just straight up biological, like some women are into thicker guys, some women are into really thin guys, some women are into built guys, some women are into super scrawny guys. Um, like my wife has always told me she never liked a guy with massive legs, thick legs. I'm not that guy anyways. I played, a lot of more running sports and so on and so forth. I've always had very lean legs per se. I have a decent deadlift, decent squats, but I never really had, jacked legs or anything like that. And just, I'm a taller guy, decent upper body strength, so on and so forth. And again, like I said, I struggled with my weight, so I still have never gotten like a six pack or anything like that, but I'm pretty healthy. So it's more so, the way she looks at you, she wants to spend time with you. Is there like very gentle touches or kind words or compliments and so on and so forth? Those are usually the telltale signs. Eddie, you didn't have to stop the stickers. I was just saying slow it down. I like the blue one too. Those stickers are pretty cool. Thank you. I appreciate the time you've been spending. I see girls looking at me in public, but I don't know if they like me or they just think I look funny. Well, first of all, you don't know who these women are. You don't know if they're cray-cray or not. And, at the end of the day, they probably don't know either if you are. So if they're really like staring you down or really want to get to know you, I'd be a little bit leery of them in general, because if they're just talking or looking at random guys, there's a lot of crazy random guys out there too. So, take that with a grain of salt. Now, if a woman is staring at you in public and, she's showing the just genuine, kind cuteness or interest, take it as a great compliment, right? Whether you say you think you look funny or whatever it might be, so be it. If you find a pretty woman who's wanting to gaze at you for whatever reason, wonderful. Just take it for what it is, but you really want to get to know the person. And like I was even just telling a young guy at work who was taking notes as I was telling him about relationships today. I said, make sure that the person's cute. It's not about hot or about like gorgeous or anything like that. It's cute. Cuteness is for the long run. When you're both old and gray and things aren't working the way they used to, can you laugh together? Are you best friends? Should you enjoy the person? You want to look at them. Do you think they're beautiful? Do they think you're handsome? I think that comes with the territory, absolutely. However, if that is the first goal, then when looks fade, you're going to be in a real tough bind. You're going to feel it. So don't let that be the driving factor for, does a girl like me or not, or what do they look like? And again, like I said, in public, if girls are like after you, I'm a little nervous of that because there's a lot of really creepy guys out there too. So if they're just into you because of how you look, how ridiculously shallow are they and what kind of baggage do they bring to the table? Meeting someone, in a very organic way is usually the best way to go. Or in my case, I met my wife online, and the only reason why is because I had served so long in a church. People thought I was some super religious, wonderful guy, and no one would talk to me like I was a real person. So I did turn to online. I wouldn't say it's for everybody because a lot of people lie online. There's a lot of catfishing and garbage that goes on. But if you do go online, just the best thing you can do is just write out everything about yourself, who you are, what you believe in. As a Christian, I was able to write out a ton of stuff, and that was very, very helpful for me to be able to, you know, snag my wife off the interwebs. Um, Actually, it's a quick little funny story I love to tell. My wife loves to tell too. Is that my wife had been approached by a lot of other guys online, and she in the app we were using, you couldn't see the message. You could just see if someone likes you or not, or sends you a message. And Eddie, what's going on, man? I don't see any more stickers. I'm hoping for some more. Just don't flood. I want more stickers. Just don't flood. Um, and so she had messages from other guys, and she could see that. But what was cool is that sorry, let me go back one step. When I had met my ex on the same platform, she had written very little about herself. I didn't write a lot. And when we met each other, it took us months to figure out who the other person was. And I didn't want that to happen when I broke up with my ex. Or I guess we broke up mutually the second time. But when I decided I'm going to write 10 paragraphs about who I was. And so I think my wife, who was looking for substance, well, she married my substance, so I hope she likes me. Um, she read those 10 paragraphs. She thought I was handsome. And it's because I also led spiritually with what I believe, who I am, who I'm all about, my past, my problems, my future, how I want to serve the kids, so on and so forth. I wrote a lot. So if you do want to do online dating, that's one thing I can say is write a lot about who you are. And who cares if 99.9% of the women don't want to talk to you? That one woman who actually cares will want to talk to you. And or if there's any women out there watching, that one guy who's actually going to care, that's the person you want to connect with. And if you like the look of the other person, well, you're already 80% of the battle right away. So I wrote all that I wrote, the 10 paragraphs, and my wife had I don't know, 15 or 20 other guys message her. She had a dozen, hundreds of likes maybe, but the messages were in, and she said when she read my account, she was using it for free, and right after she read my account, she paid the $20 to sign up so that she could read the message and then we could start communicating. So the joke is that I was at least worth $20 to my wife. So there you go. Those are the stickers again. Good on you, Eddie. You waited long enough. Game over. Cry. Sad seal face. I'm loving the underwater stuff. Bring it on. So yeah, I'm worth $20. And me and my wife, we spent the next 6 months just getting to know each other, and we just kept on writing questions. And that's another thing I tell people to do if you're doing online dating or you don't know someone is do 5 questions a day, and via email, or 5 questions a week, or whatever it might be. Me and my wife ended up messaging each other well over 500 times. As she would message me 5 questions, and I would message her 5 questions. And sometimes it was like, what is your political stance on something? And we didn't talk a lot of politics. I'm just giving you a random. Or like, what's your favorite food? Or what's your favorite comfort food? Or where do you want to travel to? Or are you a person who, like in inevitably we talked about, our morning or evening person? I was an evening person. She was a morning person. And that worked out by God's grace. And so, just asking all those very, interesting, fun questions, where do you want to live? It just does so much for just communication and building relationship, because that's really and truly what most problems in the world come down to, whether it's like on a spousal level or with children or your friends or even your enemies or countries, is a lack of communication. There's Eddie. Here we go. Crushing it with the stickers. I miss the stickers. Thank you so much. So yeah, I would say potential. Hopefully, I answered those questions. Again, if you have any more, please let me know. Whoops. But yeah, it's a blessing when you meet the right person. And you know, it took us 6 months of getting to know each other before we really started dating, and then we dated for about 2 years. Within 6 months, though, we were shopping for her engagement ring, and the first thing that the first ring that she found, we went to like 10 other places, but that was the ring, and God is good. I got like 41% off on the ring as we waited. So I made the down, like when she first told me she liked the ring at the first place, I put the down payment on it, but I was able to get 41% more off the ring in time. So that was her favorite ring. And I would really suggest, if you take anything away from tonight, if you get married, and I hope you all do, it's a blessing to the right person, let her choose the ring with you. She's going to wear it the rest of her life. I don't understand how people do this. My wife loves her ring because she chose it with me. It's a three diamond ring, and there's like interwoven infinity ring streams in the background, and it like embodies like the Trinity and like ever flowing between the two of us and the different metals. And it's such a story conversator instead of, here, you like this ring. And if your girl really wants you to pick it, great, fine. But most of the time, you know, just get in there. I'm gonna lag every day. All right, Eddie, you lag it up. You're lagging them servers. I can't find a girl. I just go to Thailand or South America. I heard it's easier there. Well, and Tapped, I don't know if you're a Christian or not. I don't know where you're from in the world either, but I can say that it can be easier. But if there's a religious or there's like a cultural difference, it can be easier. And I don't know where you're from, but it can also be very difficult when you do cross cultural relationships. And you also have to think, you know, is this person wanting to be with me because I'm being an outstanding man, because I'm caring and long suffering? And again, from a Christian perspective, I don't know if you're a Christian or not, but are you going to be with this girl because she likes you because of what you can do for her? Or is it because she really likes you for who you are? And you have to come up with that answer yourself. I can't come up with that answer. And then once you set up the precedents in your heart and in your head, whether you're going to kind of go to a country like Thailand or a continent like South America to find a spouse, if you are going with that intent to find someone who's, you know, maybe someone who's good looking, who's maybe quote unquote easier to deal with, you've got to live with that the rest of your life. And who knows how long it'll be before, you know, they're sick and tired of that and they thought they wanted that. So my suggestion is to really hone in on your values and your morals, become the best person you can. And if you're a Christian, God will bring you, I think, the right person. If you're really spending the time to focus on how you can be a better person and how you can trust God and become more of a godly man. But on the flip side, if you're not, then, you know, potentially finding someone who's a little bit more relaxed and not as caught up in the North American lifestyle might be better. I used to be part of Buddhism, but now I'm a Christian because I felt Jesus was like, yeah, boy. Love that. Love it, Untapped. Wonderful. Okay, that's up. That's enough emojis. Well, thank you for all the emojis. Wow, I've never seen so many emojis. Oh, you got more for us. You used to be part of Buddhism. Well, praise God that you have felt that you are a Christian and Jesus is the light, and at the end of the day, Jesus is always the light. I'm so happy and thrilled to hear that. So, a question then for you, Untapped Potential. Which country are you from? And that would help me with your earlier comment from before. But really happy that you're a Christian, and I pray, again, we meet up around this time we went on for an hour and a half tonight, but we meet up for an hour or so. Nicaragua. Oh, cool. Okay, so you were already, hold on, let me make sure. Nicaragua is in South America, is that correct? My geography is horrible. I'm hoping. Please be right. YouTube should add more emojis. Yes, Eddie. Boom. You're the ultimate flood. Emoji flood time. Let's see. Nicaragua is South American. I could just Google it. I'm such a fool. I'm waiting here. Nicaragua. In Central America. Okay, sorry. Central America. So that's Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica, Nicaragua. Beautiful. All right. I want to lag everyone. Why do you want to lag everyone? That's all right. Okay, so you're from Nicaragua. So okay, so culturally speaking, South American, is probably your first bet if you want the easiest integration. Now, if you're interested in another culture, whether they're from the continent of Africa or Europe or North America or Asia or wherever, wonderful. Praise God. I'm a mixed kid. I'm Scottish, German, Guyanese, Indian. My wife is Dutch. I'm mixed. My kids are super mixed. Mix is cool. If you're feeling more cultural, wonderful. My culture is mixed at the moment, so it is what it is. If you're from Nicaragua, do you find that there are other Christian women in your community or in Central America that you have connected with or talked to? That would be a good place to start. And also, I don't know how old you are on Untapped Potential. You seem like you have a lot of untapped potential. Dad joke. But yes, so if you are a Christian in a church, you are attracted to Nicaraguan women or women from Central America because they're around you. And if other places, you'd have to plant yourself somewhere else. And if you're old enough in your 20s or 30s, how is God changing your heart and how are you serving and getting prepared and more ready to be the leader in your home, to be loving, to cause a woman to want to respond in love from your love that you're giving? Because that's really the major crux of the matter that it comes down to, that I have had a lot of women who have been interested in me over the years, but it's because of my serving heart and how much I give over to the Lord. Again, like we were talking tonight about greed and pride and stifling and suffocating the flesh in that sense from being those the lifelines of our sin. So if you could answer that Untapped, that would be helpful. Should I do it again, Stephen Tocher? All those emojis? Do it. You do it. Oh yeah. Go ahead. Flood it up. It's all good. I'm down. I appreciate it. All the way from Malaysia, getting flooded. The Malaysian Eddie flood. Here it comes. ALR. Hey. High five. I don't know if Untapped is still there or not. And Eddie, you are the king. You're just going to ham here. Oh, it's been a long day. Glad to be with you all tonight, though. I almost knocked over the mother and the children here in the wooden sculpture here. Okay, Untapped Potential. I do not know if you're here anymore. If there's anyone else has any other questions or thoughts about greed and pride, about finances, about life. So we're almost streaming an hour and 40 minutes. This is my 6th stream. Loving this stuff, loving to help and serve wherever I can. I appreciate Eddie. You're killing it with these stickers. I'm loving it. All right, so I guess we're getting towards the end here. All right, so I think I'll cap in prayer. We've had a wonderful stream. We had up to, I think, 23 people on here tonight at any given time. And for those of you who've been on here consistently throughout the last hour and 40 minutes, it has been wonderful, a blessing. It's been great to pray with you, chat with you, share tips on relationships and thoughts on weight loss and just being healthy in general. And if you are interested, please come back next Friday and subscribe and like the channel. I usually send out a post on Thursday or Friday as a reminder if I'll be able to post or not. Do you get paid by YouTube? I used to. 15 years ago when I had my channel originally and I was getting, tens of thousands of views. I was getting paid. But now my goal is not to get attraction through payment. It is to meet people on more of a heart-to-heart level. And I'm writing a book for next year, and I'll be doing semi-private classes in the future to help people with getting into deeper relationships, understanding God more, dealing with a lot of addictions and hurt and pain in their lives and issues. Eddie, loving the stickers. Thank you so much. So I do not get paid by YouTube right now. I'm in a residency program for something special that's been on my heart for years. So I'm doing that. I work a full-time job in facilities. I run a men's group online, and I'm doing a lot of other things. You should do IRL streams in your church. No, thank you. Eventually, we'll see if I get there, and podcasting and so on and so forth. But for now, it's a great place to meet people like yourselves, like Eddie and Untapped and Sean on tonight and Babu and the different other people that have been on here tonight. That's why I'm here, because by God's grace, I wouldn't have met y'all if I wasn't, I don't think. I love doing this and love chatting and helping people in different parts of the world. So next Friday, again, if you guys can like and subscribe, that'd be amazing. And you'll be able to see the post. And next week, we'll be talking about our identity and how we beat addiction and beat problems and get into better relationships with our identity put in God's hands, in Christ, and allow the Holy Spirit to take over our lives. So if anyone has any prayer requests, please let me know. You can drop it in the chat. I'm just going to cap us off in prayer as loving the questions. You're done? Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate you. Okay, just gonna end off in prayer tonight. Lord, thank you so much for Eddie and for Untapped and Babu and Sean and let me just flip up here the 6 because of all the wonderful emojis I got here today from Mr. Eddie. There's a few other people before. Sigmo is here, Jawbreakers. Thank you all for being on the stream tonight. And Lord, I just pray that you give them blessing and peace and protection. I just pray for the unrest in the world, people who are really struggling, who need help. I pray that, even the gentleman here tonight will be able to help people in their community. Sorry if the volume's gone down a bit. I'm just losing my voice strength a bit. Lord Jesus, I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity to meet people around the world. And I just pray for Untapped Potential in particular right now. He seems to be starting to look for a spouse, and just pray that you bless him and keep him with all the questions tonight. And Eddie from Malaysia, just for protection and peace in a world that seems to be going all over the place. And for Babu and all the wonderful questions he has. And for Sean as he's embarked on stopping the relationship, as we chatted 4 weeks ago. Thank you for your wisdom, God, that you've been able to help that we've been together, walk through stuff, and you've helped him by God's grace, by your grace, I should say, to break up with this person who has been manipulating him and hurting him for a long time. Lord, give them all wisdom and help them. I pray that they'd all have a great night or day ahead. And thank you so much for this time. In Jesus' name, amen. Babu, LOL. How you found Steven? How I found Steven? Talking to Eddie? Eddie found me, and I think God allowed him to find me because he's a wonderful, supportive person. Love them stickers. Keep them coming, Eddie. But yeah, appreciate the time y'all have spent with me tonight. It's been wonderful. Again, we talked about pride and greed. If you want to watch anything we talked about tonight, please do it again. Subscribe, like it if you want. Next week we'll be talking about identity and going deep into your identity and where you stand in the world, because a lot of that will help you with overcoming your imposter syndrome, your addictions. And like I said before, I'm Stephen Tocher. I've gone through 7 different addictions over the past 40 years of my life and being able to fix them. And by God's grace, I just want to show people how to do that and live in freedom to the best of their abilities in God's strength. So I appreciate it. And yeah, hope to see you all next Friday or Saturday, depending on where you are. And please like and subscribe so you can get the notification on the next stream. And please come prepared with lots of questions. I love talking about relationships and food and finances and anything and everything in between. So y'all have yourselves a wonderful night. So I'll finish as I usually do. My name's Stephen Tocher. Have yourself a wonderful day, evening, morning, or night. God bless y'all.